Good morning. Mondays. I'm watching the news, and this gentleman, Kevin O'Leary, they call him Mr. Wonderful. Apparently a very smart man when it comes to investing. I'm watching him on the news. They're talking about Mamdani socialism. And he said something that so many very smart people have gotten wrong. I mean, it's technically right, but the spirit of it is wrong. Talking about socialism, he says the problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. I believe it was Thatcher who originally coined that, or maybe she's just the one who made it famous. It's not true. First cup of coffee, always the best cup of coffee. It's true that you will eventually run out of other people's money. That's not the reason. As much as I hate to say it, socialism will always fail. At least the type of really rabid far left socialism that some people are wanting and envisioning. Doing away with the Senate and having a collective make decisions and all this shit. I mean, there are certain elements of socialism, but yes, I agree with, like, universal health care. That would almost certainly be considered a socialist ideal. I think you could look at it in a capitalist light. You could say, well, okay, what does it cost our GDP for this percentage of the workforce to be out of action due to either curable medical conditions or conditions that could have been prevented if they'd had access to health care. I'm not sure those numbers actually exist, but maybe they do, and maybe they're substantial. Anyhow, I'm losing the plot here. The reason socialism, communism, those are two different things. I'm just saying both of them will never succeed is because people suck. I realize that sounds glib. Mike, you're so clever. What I mean by that is that power attracts the worst of us. Doesn't always get the worst of us, but it certainly attracts the worst in humanity. A few things are more powerful than politicians. A politician's a politician under a capitalist society or a communist one. Eventually, enough people are going to get into power in any system that eventually enough of these socially maladjusted, to be kind, individuals will get into power and start taking the biggest plates for themselves. And the rot, like a dead fish, spreads from the head down. in the United States, we're very lucky to have mechanisms in place to where even if a bad person does get into power, in terms of the president, they can only stay there, 10 years, I think, 2 full terms and maybe a half if who they were serving with got assassinated. You have, in America at least, I can't speak for all Western nations, but I think a lot of them probably mirror each other. In America, we have 2 parties who sort of keep an eye on each other, and within those parties, you have anti-corruption type of organizations. So it's not easy preventing America from becoming an authoritarian state. But our founding fathers were wise enough to put in some checks and safeguards. And it seems to work pretty well. Look at the United States, man. We're coming up on, 2 or just past 250 years. Now look at the Soviet Union. They didn't even make it 100. Shit, did they make it 75? 90? Well, it was pretty fucking close. Hey, congrats on almost a century. And not China. Now, China would seem to be the exception to the rule so far. I'm not sure really how socialist China is, because they seem really fucking capitalist to me. I think that they will eventually be the dominant power in the world by the end of the century, but for technological reasons. I think that they will sell very high-end quality robots and AI and stuff like that. I think they're going to win that race, and I think down that path lays the future for an economic powerhouse. Whoever wins that is going to own the world, not through military conquest, because everybody will be buying their shit. So I don't know. When I think about the pros and cons of a one-party system, I can see the strengths of that in theory. No distractions. Nobody's saying, well, if we do this, then this will happen. Instead, the party just fucking says, we need this road here, and they go and build that road, regardless of if there's a village in the way or if it's going to make the fluffy-tailed beaver go extinct. Fuck it, just do it. And you see in the United States, man, we can't turn over a pebble for a new road without 36 people holding up signs in protest. But let's not get it twisted. China is also a very young nation, which sounds weird coming from the United States when you got countries in Europe and elsewhere, who have existed for twice or 3 times as long as the United States. And people say, well, China was civilized 1,000 years before Christ. And that's all true, but they've changed. There's no longer an emperor in China. I think it's disingenuous to say the China of 1500 AD is the same China today. Modern China has, at least from my understanding, its beginnings in the 20th century, when the last emperor was overthrown. I think he eventually became a street sweeper or something. I don't know if it's a sad story, but it's certainly an interesting one. But anyhow, okay, so you got China, in column A, the column that, depending upon your vantage point, is either not dead yet or succeeding. But then you've got USSR, that was a failed state. Cuba is a failed state. Jesus Christ, man. I'm not sure if it's the early mornings and I should wait to make videos, or if I'm just fucking foggy headed because I'm old. But back to the beginning. In any political system where the powerful can manipulate resources to their benefit, and if that same system does not have strong self-regulation against corruption, I think it's doomed. And it's doomed because of the people. People are why humanity can't have nice stuff. No matter how good something starts, with the best of intentions. You know what they say about intentions, road to hell? This is what they're talking about. No matter how an organization starts with the best of intentions, if it becomes all-powerful, then it will become corrupt. Again, I hate to be breaking out the cliches this morning, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. I wish that socialism and communism, things like that, could work. I like the idea of everybody having health care, of everybody having homes and food. As the quotation goes, from everyone according to their ability, to everyone according to their need. But for those systems to work, you need truly benevolent people. You need good people. And you need a continual influx of them. There's just not that many goddamn good people. I don't think there probably ever has been. So I'm still hopeful that we can figure out a way to get universal health care. I believe that anything we Americans put our minds to, we can do. But it will not come about in a communist or a socialist environment. My thoughts. Have a great day.